not true sons and daughters at all. Moreover, we have all had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them for it. How much more should we submit to the Father of spirits and live? They disciplined us for a little while, as they thought best, but God disciplines us for our good, in order that we may share in His holiness. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Therefore, strengthen your feeble arms and weak knees. Make level paths for your feet, so that the lame may not be disabled, but rather healed. Make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. See that no one is sexually immoral or is godless like Esau, who for a single meal sold his inheritance rights as the oldest son. Afterward, as you know, when he wanted to inherit this blessing, he was rejected. Even though he sought the blessing with tears, he could not change what he had done. You have not come to a mountain that can be touched, and that is burning with fire, to darkness, gloom, and storm, to a trumpet blast, or to such a voice speaking words that those who heard it begged that no further word be spoken to them, because they could not bear what was commanded. If even an animal touches the mountain, it must be stoned to death. The sight was so terrifying that Moses said, I am trembling with fear. But you have come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem. You have come to thousands upon thousands of angels in joyful assembly, to the church of the firstborn, whose names are written in heaven. You have come to God, the judge of all, to the spirits of the righteous made perfect, to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. See to it that you do not refuse him who speaks. If they did not escape when they refused him who warned them on earth, how much less will we, if we turn away from him who warns us from heaven? At that time, his voice shook the earth, but now he has promised, once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens. The words once more indicate the removing of what can be shaken, that is, created things, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. Therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful and so worship God acceptably with reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. This is the word of God.
How encouraging was that testimony from Sihle? She is living out the faithful following that we'll be talking about now. So we have spoken about who it is we're following. We've spoken about the glorious Son of God, the suffering Messiah in the context of suffering. And we've spoken about what following actually is. It's a wholehearted trust in Jesus as your security. A one-off and a day-to-day trust in this baseline security of Jesus. So how are we going to keep growing faithfully, though? Because when you've been at something like this, when you've been with God's people and hearing his word and singing his praise and getting this little taste of heaven, you think to yourself, how could I ever forget? How could I ever get distracted from this? He is my hope. He is my all in all. I'm going to pray more. I'm going to scroll less. I'm going to serve more and complain less. I'm going to live in the joy of my salvation. And yet, 2 weeks from now, we'll find ourselves tempted to skip out on church because it's been a heavy week. And you'll choose Facebook or Instagram over a quiet time. And you'll see an email asking for help and you'll be busy. And before you know it, we get bogged down again. And we know it happens. We wish it didn't, but it does. It is the nature of living in this world because we are influenced by our culture. To pretend we aren't would be the same as pretending we can live in this world and not breathe oxygen. We are going to be affected by what is around us. So we do need to keep our head above fog, and we have to see through the overwhelming push for apathy and convenience that our culture sells us. We have to keep our eyes on Jesus, and that's what we're looking at now. So this session, we are in the book of Hebrews. Now, we had our first 2 sessions in Matthew, full of Old Testament pictures, right? Matthew's all on a mission to tell you, you know Jesus? Yeah, the Messiah. Or hey, did I mention Jesus was the Messiah? Look here at this little Old Testament prophecy. Guess what? Jesus is the Messiah, right? He's showing you how Jesus is the fulfillment of all these things. And Hebrews is fairly similar. We're not sure who the author is, but the whole push of the book is to show you how Jesus is better than the old covenant, how he is so much more than that. So potentially it was written to church leaders, and there was a push around them to kind of go back to Jewish practices, to add that in. And Hebrews is all about how Jesus is better than anything you'd want to pull out of the Old Testament, how he is the fulfillment of that. So Hebrews is telling you that there is no point in trusting in things of the past because Jesus is superior. He achieves the ultimate. He is the final version of all these things. So through the different chapters of Hebrews, and particularly the first 10 chapters, the author shows you how he fulfills different Old Testament things. So he says Jesus is God's word. Then he says Jesus is the hope for the new creation. Then he is the eternal priest, and he is the perfect sacrifice. And he can be all those things, as we looked last night. He is much enough to be all those things. And then chapter 11 gives you pictures of people who have trusted God to the end. So he goes, God's had the salvation plan, and guess what? There are those who have trusted him faithfully to the end. Let me tell you about some of them. So if you look in Hebrews chapter 11, he mentions all these people who faithfully followed Jesus till the end. And then his push, Hebrews 12, where we're reading now, therefore, since you are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, you keep going. They have run faithfully. Now it's your turn. How are we going to keep doing that? Hopefully this will be a bit more practical. The first 2 verses give us what we need to think on. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Let me pause there, actually. Those 2 things. He says, these guys have run, now it's your turn. Think of a relay race. They know what it takes. They've run it. They've passed the baton over to you. It's your turn to follow faithfully to the end. And he tells us 2 things about this race. First, let us throw off everything that hinders. And secondly, along that vein, the sin that so easily entangles. Those 2 aren't exactly the same. They add to each other. But the first thing there, you throw off that which hinders, is the idea of before a race, you drop any excess weight. It's the idea that you run in what is appropriate. You get rid of anything that would slow you down for the race. So if you've been training for the comrades, you don't get there in the morning with high heels or gumboots and a ball gown. It is not appropriate. It will weigh you down. It will hinder you. Get rid of that which will hinder you. Do you see how it's a bit like the rich young man? What was his wealth doing? Hindering him. Get rid of that which hinders you. The second thing he says is we need to get rid of the sin that so easily entangles. There's so many different translations. If you have a different translation and you've been following along, you'll see there's so many nuances to this passage. So the ESV says this, lay aside every weight and the sin which clings so closely. It's a fair description. Sin entangles, it clings. I always get the mental image of an octopus wrapping its legs around. I was trying to find like a little cutesy picture, and the octopuses are so cute. But have you seen a real octopus? Can you picture those little sucker things on you, entangling you? They creeped me out. I couldn't do it. I went cutesy. But the idea is you are being tangled in. And sin is slippery. It slips in when our guard is down, wrapping its legs around us. Sin slips into our lives, and before we know it, we're in the heart of it. So it's just one episode of an explicit show, but then its tentacles wrap itself around our thoughts and our fantasies. It's just one conversation with a friend because you genuinely are concerned, but then its tentacles wrap itself around our emotions, and suddenly we are bitter and resentful towards the person we were talking about. It's just losing your temper this one time because you're so tired. But then its tentacles wrap yourself around your standards, and you find yourself moving the benchmark for an appropriate way to speak to your husband or your children. I'm not saying this to shame us. I'm just saying this to show how accurate the Bible is in how it speaks about sin entangling, clinging. You know, often what happens to us is it entangles us, it pulls us in, and then we're too ashamed to confess it. Because we should have seen it for what it is sooner, but we didn't, and it's our own fault. And now we better go sort ourselves out before we can come back to God. Let me just deal with it, and then I can be an encouragement to my community. This is how you know it's entangled you. If it pulls you away from God, or if it pulls you away from community, it has entangled you. God saved you for a relationship with himself in the context of family, church family. If you're being pulled away from God, if you're being pulled away from Christians, you are entangled with sin, and you need to throw it off because it's going to wrap its tentacles around you. So we are to throw off the weight, get rid of your ball gown, get rid of your fears, get rid of the pride that stops you, throw off the weight that hinders, get rid of the tentacles of sin that will keep trying to cling onto you. And what do? We fix our eyes on Jesus. Chapter 12, verse 2. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Different translations might say, author of our faith. The idea there is that he not only started it, inaugurated the race, got to the end, he is the all in all. He is the pioneer and perfecter of faith, the journey of faith, the life of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of God. That's where we're fixing our eyes. We're shaking off here, and we're fixing our eyes on him, because he has run this race all the way to the end, and he got us there. There's this kid's game called Open Gates, or Red Rover. The people stand in the middle, and everyone else stands to one side. And the people in the middle go, everyone who's wearing, tackies. And then those who are run across. And as soon as the first one gets to the other end, they shout, open gates. Everyone else can get across. Jesus did that for us. He endured the cross, securing salvation for us. Now we run, fixing our eyes on him. So we're going to throw off, and we're going to fix our eyes. And there's 3 things we're going to do to help us. First of all, we are going to, verse 3, consider him. Verse 7, we are going to endure discipline. And verse 12, we are going to strengthen ourselves with holiness. So if we're shaking off and focusing on him, what are the 3 tools we're using in that day-to-day practice? Well, the first one, verse 3, we are going to consider him. Verse 3, consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. That word consider means, it's used in calculations. It means take into account what Jesus did. So while you are doing your budget for how to live the Christian life, take into account the suffering Jesus endured. If it was a line item for Jesus in his budget, suffering, it's going to be there for us. Take it into account. Consider it. It's an expected expense. Jesus endured it, and so will we. And it's because he has endured it, we have this great picture and this great encouragement to keep going. They use the language so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. It's the picture of those marathon runners, and there's like 10 meters before the final line, and they're falling down. They can't do it. They crawl, they collapse. He's saying, don't be like that. So fix your eyes on Jesus. Consider him. Make a calculated decision. If it was suffering for him, If he endured such opposition from sinners, how much more will we follow? So take that into consideration. Consider, calculate what he has faced. The great joy of that means he understands. Part of what Hebrews speaks about earlier is the great value of having a high priest who sympathizes with our weakness. He gets it. And just in our experience, if you've ever chatted to someone going through something you've gone through, there is such a joy in having someone laugh with you about it. I found being a new mom so hard. I lived away from all my family, but to have moms at church who laughed along with me when I had no idea what I was doing was a great joy because they got it. When I said I was tired, they got it. It wasn't, a sweet friend who doesn't have kids being like, yeah, I'm tired too, I watched an extra movie. It's a different type of understanding because they get it. Your high priest, he faced opposition from sinful men. This church was facing opposition. You'll notice later he says that they haven't yet have to face or struggle against sin to shed their blood. That was the opposition. Churches were being persecuted. He gets it. Meditate on him. We're going to consider him. You're going to clear space in your mind for him. Consider him. We're quite good at brooding on negative things. Can you think of a time your feelings were hurt and it just hovered there in your brain? You brooded. Can we apply that same brooding to Christ and his sufferings? Why is he so quick to slip in and out of our heads when we can meditate and brood on a sentence from a friend? Can we consider, can we take into account his suffering? Because he understands. So if we're throwing off the weight, getting ourselves out of the tentacles of sin, focusing on Christ, the first way we're going to keep looking at him is by considering what he endured. Just in practice, we see that. As you heard Sikle's story, didn't you stop and you go, sure, Lord, I faced nothing. How much more then when we hold ourselves up to Christ himself, who stepped down from heaven, the King of the world being spat at by the people he made. How much more did he endure? Clear space in your head for his suffering. So that when we face opposition for being Christians, it was already in our budget. We had already prepared to face that. We're going to consider. The second thing we're going to do is endure. Let's read from verse 4. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And have you completely forgotten the word of encouragement that addresses you as a father addresses his son? It says, my son, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and he chastens everyone he accepts as a son. Verse 7, endure hardship as discipline, for God is treating you as his children. I think we need a little rebrand of hardship, right? Some of you work in marketing. Why do you do a rebrand? You want people to think of something in a different way. So you get a different spokesmodel, or you change your color or your lettering. Let's rebrand hardship for ourselves. If you are a Christian, hardship is used for your discipline, for your discipleship. It's the same root word. God is discipling you. He is disciplining you. We are going to face hardship in this world, regardless of whether we are Christians or not, because this world is broken. If you have a swimming pool and you drop some food coloring in, and then you dive in, you will not be able to avoid the food coloring. If it's a little bit blue, or let's say we use green food coloring, if it's a little bit green, very dark green, very light, depending on where it's spread, there is food coloring in that pool. You are in a world that is broken. You will face suffering. But if you are a Christian, that suffering is being used to disciple you. And God is doing it because he loves you. Because only God can use what is hard and broken to bring out what is good in you. So when a hardship comes our way, particularly a hardship for being a Christian, where you feel you have a raw deal because you have picked this Christian life, where you're actively facing opposition at work, where you can't face yet another family Christmas being the laughing stock because you want to sing Christmas carols that talk about Jesus. You are enduring hardship because God is discipling you in them. Let me read from verse 8. If you are not disciplined, and everyone undergoes discipline, you are not legitimate, not true sons and daughters at all. Moreover, we all had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them for it. How much more should we submit to the Father of our spirits and live? They discipled us for a little while, as they thought best. But God disciplines us for our good, in order that we may share in his holiness. We know that we try and direct and train up our children. Sometimes we get it right. Sometimes we go back to them and apologize. If we, in our brokenness, want their best, if we, in our love for them, want to disciple them, how much more a Father who created you, who knows you inside out, and who is never tired or irritable or grumpy or disciplining you because you push one of his buttons. He loves you. He is discipling you. You're going to face hardship either way. Let it be doing something in you. So when that hardship comes your way, particularly hardship for being a Christian, we're going to rebrand it. Think of it for what it is. God using hardship to train you. Verse 11. Doesn't seem pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Only God can bring good out of bad. Isn't that the great hope of this world? Out of all the brokenness, all our best intentions still gone wrong, God brings good for us and for his glory. So recap, shaking off that which hinders, the sin that so easily entangles, and instead calculating our lives on Jesus and his sacrifice, clearing space in our heads to meditate on him. We are going to think on him, and we are going to endure any hardship that comes our way as we walk towards him. Those hardships are your dumbbells in the gym. They are your treadmill in the gym. That's where you're heading. So that when people see what happens, just like what happened this morning, we praise God. We go, I don't understand, but why do you see more beautiful now, Father? It produces a harvest of peace and righteousness. So, we're going to consider, we're going to endure, and thirdly, we're going to strengthen. Stay with me here. It goes a bit all over the place because these verses all connect so beautifully. And depending on the translation you have, the translation can vary quite a lot, showing you how many ideas are packed in here. Verse 12, therefore strengthen your feeble arms and weak knees. Make level paths for your feet, so that the lame may not be disabled, but rather healed. So verse 12 is a bit of a pep talk. Come on. It's Rusty Erasmus with the Springboks halfway through the island game. Come on, boys. I know you're tired. Keep on. Take a firm grip. I know those knees are jelly. Keep going. Strengthen yourselves. Verse 13 is a quote from Proverbs chapter 4. And what they often do is they quote one verse of an Old Testament passage so that you think about the whole passage. So you're supposed to import all your knowledge, like a friend using one line from a song, right? And then you think of the whole song because the whole song adds to it. So he quotes one part of Proverbs chapter 4, which is instructions from a father on how to live. And maybe I should just go over there quickly. You're welcome to flip back if you'd like to. But we are in Proverbs chapter 4. 4 from verse 26, but that whole section, get wisdom at any cost, is the heading. You'll see how much there he is talking about keeping your eyes fixed. So let me read a few lines. 4 verse 20, pay attention to my words. Pay attention to what I say. Turn your ears to my words. Verse 23, above all else, guard your heart. Verse 24, keep your mouth free from perversity. Verse 25, let your eyes look straight ahead, fixing your gaze directly before you. Verse 26, give thought to the paths for your feet and be steadfast in all your ways. Verse 27, do not turn to the right or the left, keep your foot from evil. So that is the context. He's saying, come on, be strong. And then he's quoting some Old Testament proverbs, some wisdom from Proverbs that says, keep straight, keep on going. Follow the straight path ahead of you. Some of the translations can vary, but the idea there is so that those who follow you will be strengthened and healed. Now, if we keep in mind that part of this was written to Christian leaders facing the temptation to turn back to Old Testament practices, to Jewish practices, he's saying to them, people are following behind you. So you better run hard, full out, wholeheartedly towards Jesus so that those behind you aren't going to stumble or down the funny paths you're trying to take them. Fix your eyes, do not turn your feet to the right or the left, as that proverb says. The idea there is he's going, come on, be strong, stick to the path. So we're going to shake off all these things that hinder. We're going to see them for what they are. We're going to ask for God's help with that. We're going to see where we're being entangled because suddenly we are away from God, we are away from community. And we're going to fix our eyes on Jesus because he's been there and he gets it. And while we're doing that, we're thinking of him right. We're clearing space in our head to consider him and his suffering. We are seeing all the hardships coming our way as discipline, as discipleship from our Father who loves us. And we're saying to ourselves and to one another, come on, man. I know you're tired. I know it's hard this week. Let us keep going because there's those following behind us. If we have this great cloud of witnesses, we are part of that for someone else. Who's following behind us? Your children? Your younger sister? The young woman you met with and discipled? They are following behind us. We need to run that without turning to the left or the right. Those are kind of the tools he gives us, and those are quite practical. We're going to think differently. We're going to see hardship differently, and we're going to strengthen ourselves to keep straight on the path. Verse 14 to verse 17 kind of gives a few examples of where perhaps we would be tempted to stray off to the right or the left on this path of following Jesus. And we see it often in churches, and we see it often in ourselves. Verse 14, make every effort to live in peace with everyone and be holy. Without holiness, no one will see God. How often do we find disunity in our church? Over what are actually small things? How often do we find disunity amongst denominations, amongst Christian friend groups? He's saying that is something that's going to pull your feet to the right or the left, and you need to go straight. So make every effort. Apologize. Humble yourself. Say sorry. Make every effort, because it's not worth having your feet turned off to the right or the left. You're going this way. Second thing we often see, verse 15, see to it that no one falls short of the grace of God. That's the first part. The other translation of that is falls back from the grace of God. They're living as a Christian, but then they get distracted. In this context, perhaps it would have been distracted by Old Testament practices, perhaps by materialism, consumerism, getting their kids into the right school, and then, but it's Scouts on Friday night. Sorry, they can't come to youth. And we want to do league soccer as well. Now, these are not bad things, but if they are crowding out Jesus and community, they are desperately dangerous things. So make sure that no one falls away from the faith. He's saying make sure no one stops trusting Jesus as a church, which means we have to be preaching the gospel often to each other, to ourselves, because we don't want to fall back from that. Second half of verse 15, and that no bit gathered discussing a strange issue where someone's feelings have been hurt. Your feet are being pulled to the right or to the left, and you are heading this way. What are you doing? We are not doing that. We are heading this way. So make every effort to live in peace. Don't let someone fall away from the gospel because the other concerns of this world crowd it out. Don't let bitterness spring up, least of all in your own heart, that pull you away. And verse 16, see to it that no one is sexually immoral or godless like Esau, who for a single meal sold his inheritance right as the eldest son. Afterwards, as you know, when he wanted to inherit the blessing, he was rejected. Even though he sought the blessing with tears, he could not change what he had done. Those are two examples of living life your way as opposed to God's way, considering your own appetite and your own desire first over obedience to God. That's what sexual immorality is, right? God, I see your way, but I'm going to choose mine. Esau and the birthright, I see your way and the value of your blessing, but I choose myself. And that will lead you to the right or the left, and you are not going that way. You are going this way. So look out for it. These are a few examples of things we see in church and in our own lives. Maybe you want to think for yourself which of those you see particularly relevant to your own heart. Maybe bitterness is really biting you at the moment. Maybe you are fighting against peace because it means you have to give up your pride. Maybe you are actively living in obedience to yourself on a particular issue. Those things will pull your feet to the right or to the left, and you are following Jesus this way, a straight path towards him. Actually, that is important. Why don't you take a moment just for yourselves now? I'm going to take a sip of water. You can do the same. Find one that has really challenged you. Circle it. Think about it. So that no bitter root, no cares of this world crowd that out. And then we'll talk about that last section there. All right, let's just look at that last section of Hebrews 12. He's built up this whole argument. Jesus is far superior. So shake off that weight that hinders. Keep shaking off the tentacles of sin. Focus on Jesus. Calculate him. Clear space in your head for him. See hardship for the discipline and discipleship it is. Keep going. Don't let your feet be pulled off to either side because you are following Jesus. And the concerns and the sin of this world should not pull you either way. Finally, if those things are the carrot, have you heard of this? The carrot and the stick as a motivation. Sometimes we are we're shown the reward. Do you see why this is good? Other times we're given the threat. Do you see what will happen if you don't? Hebrew gives us both. Do you see how good this is? Jesus has already won this for you. Follow him. But also, if you don't, look what happens. Verse 18. You have not come to a mountain that can be touched, that's burning with fire, to darkness, gloom, and storm, to a trumpet blast, or to such a voice speaking words that those who heard it begged that no further word be spoken to them because they could not bear what was commanded. They're referring there to when the 10 Commandments were given to Israel. Moses up Mount Sinai, and because he is so holy, they can't come close. That's why the instruction in the next part, verse 20, even if an animal touches the mountain, must be stoned to death. God's holiness, God's perfection, spoken about there, and his revelation of his own holiness and his laws and his way for living was so scary. Do you remember what the people said? Moses, you talk to him. We're scared. We're going to wait here. Right? He's saying, don't forget who you are messing with. Don't forget whose rule and reign you live under. These people came to a mountain that you could touch and a cloud you could see. But you, verse 22, have come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem. You have come to thousands upon thousands of angels in joyful assembly, to the church of the firstborn, whose names are written in heaven. You have come to God, the judge of all, to the spirits of the righteous made perfect, to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. He is warning you. If just a glimpse of his glory, and remember, that was God. In the Old Testament, God had to hold himself back. He couldn't be with his people. He would destroy them. So that's why all these laws, all these sacrifices, the tabernacle, they couldn't touch that mountain anymore that they could walk up and talk to God face to face. He would destroy them. Suddenly you have Jesus walking on earth, and for the first time, people could touch God and not die. They could joke with him and hug him. That closeness didn't destroy them, it pulled them in. And now, if you are a Christian, you have that same spirit in you. How could you be closer to God? But listen, if even a toned-down version of that was terrifying, how much more when you have Jesus, the fulfillment of all these things? Can't refuse him then, don't refuse him now. Verse 25, and this is a warning to all of us. See to it that you do not refuse him who speaks. If they did not escape when they refused him who warned them on earth, how much less will we if we turn away from him who warns us from heaven. At that time, his voice shook the earth, but now he's promised, once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens. He's warning us that there's a timeline for this. You don't have forever. And that's why he warns. That's why he encourages. See all these good things God gives you, and that's why he warns, because the time is coming where it is too late to accept the one whose blood speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. Should we recap one more time? Shake off the sin, the weight that hinders, the things that stop you from following Jesus, and fix your eyes on him. Consider him, clear space in your head to think on his sufferings, because then when your suffering comes, you see them for what they are: discipline, discipleship, training, because he loves you as a father. So come on, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Not having our feet turned to the right or the left by petty issues that aren't in line. Because not only do we know where we're heading, we know what happens when we get there. The whole earth is shaken. Things are destroyed. God comes to reign forever. That is his warning to this church. And it is his warning to us as well. It's his warning to our precious friends who still think he's a waste of time. And our darling brother and sister-in-laws who are doing so well that they don't really think they need him just yet. It's a warning. It's a desperate warning. And it must shake and move our own hearts so that we speak to others with the same urgency and intensity that the scripture speaks to us with. So we need to do this. Just for 2 minutes, can I ask you to turn to someone next to you? We've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about fixing our eyes on Jesus and some of the things that might pull us away. Can you share with someone nearby what you feel particularly challenged by, or one you think might be a big temptation or a big challenge for people in our world? And pray over that in groups of 2 or 3, and then Pinky will call us to order.